old. And so I remember being 5 years old in my very first practice. I didn't have enough time to get wrestling shoes, so I was wearing tennis shoes.
Oh, really?
And my first practice, man, this is funny. My first practice, there was this kid, Christopher Barber, and we're 5 years old, and there's 110 of us lined up on a wall. And at the very first practice of every season, you have to step out and yell your name as loud as you can do it. Mm-hmm. Well, Chris was talking to me, and I'm going to put this on Chris, and rest in peace to Chris as well. He's also past tense, but I'm going to put this on Chris because you know, and he's probably looking down and probably laughing at the story every time I say it. But he was talking to me, and I was trying to say, hey man, you know, be quiet, you know, when you're 5, yeah, right?
Yeah.
And Coach Zadek has a strict rule: nobody's talking when Coach Zadek's talking. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care who you are. And so there's 110 of us in this room in the very first practice of the year, and they used to do a thing called what was called a field goal. So what he would do is he would have two coaches line up, and you'd hold my hand, and they would go like this, and they'd make a field goal, and then he would say, "All right, boy, get on down." And so you get down on your hands and knees, and you get down on all fours, and he'd line you up, and then he'd take a couple steps back, and he'd do one of these numbers, and then he'd run and fucking boot you right in your ass.
Really?
Fucking kick you right in your ass, dude. I'm 5 years old in front of 110 kids, dude. So this is my very first experience of wrestling practice in my life, dude. First time ever wrestling practice. Yeah. And so I went home crying, dude. My dad's like, what's going on? And so Coach Zadek calls my father. Well, my dad calls Bob and is like, hey, you know, Coach, what the fuck's going on here? And he told him the deal, and he wanted to have a meeting with my dad. Mm-hmm. And my dad's like, okay, you know, sure, man. So they sit down and they have this meeting, and in the meeting, Coach Zadek says to my father, he goes, the reason why that I did that to your son is because I knew you could handle it. My dad's like, dude, my kid's 5, man.
Yeah.
You know, like probably a little much there, Coach. And then he goes, your kid's got it. Your kid's got it. I think your kid can be an Olympic and world champion one day, but you got to have your kid come live with me.
Really? Wow.
My fucking dad goes, yeah, I'm going to pawn off my 5-year-old to go ahead and live with you. Rest in peace, Bob Zadek. But man, what a fucking story that is. You know, my dad says, you know what? My dad's going to be, my son's may or may not be a world champion or Olympic champion one day. But for today, he's still going to live in my house.
Yeah.
And I didn't want to fucking go to that practice, dude. I think it took me 2 or 3 weeks of my dad trying to force me to go. Mm-hmm. And I'd cry and cry and cry and cry and all this other shit. And my dad finally got me to go. And for the majority of my wrestling career, I fucking hated wrestling. My